Good afternoon. Today what I want to talk about are maladaptive coping skills. So that's really just a long way of saying unhealthy coping. So when you go into treatment, one of the first things your provider is likely going to do after kind of those housekeeping things is talk to you about coping skills. A coping skill or a coping tool or survival skill, strategy tool, it all means the same thing. What it means is it is an activity that you do to relieve emotional suffering. That's it. Oftentimes, people come into treatment and they have been using some type of coping skill, and that has kind of maintained them so far. Unfortunately, people will often come into treatment with a maladaptive coping skill. So an example of this could be someone that uses alcohol and or other drugs. Oftentimes, these individuals are attempting to self-medicate because there's something going on that's very difficult, and they're doing the best that they can to make it, to get to that next day. That's where that maladaptive skill comes in. The issue with relying on alcohol and other drugs is that it's not sustainable, meaning that at some point it's going to cost you money, it's going to cost you other resources, and it's likely going to become a different problem. Another example of a maladaptive coping skill might be self-harming. Typically, when you hear self-harming, you may hear of someone cutting either with a blade or a knife of some kind, something sharp. Other examples of self-harm may include pinching, really hard. Scratching your skin to the point of breaking skin and perhaps even bleeding. Punching walls and or headbanging. These are signs of self-harm. Not to be confused with someone that may have a developmental disorder or delay. That can also be a sign of that, but I'm going to put that aside because it's not the focus of this video. However, if you're engaging in headbanging for the sole purpose of causing harm to yourself, that is a self-harming behavior. So one of the things that I like to do is get a good sense of the coping skills that my clients already have. Because although some of these skills are very maladaptive, they're not healthy, they're skills nonetheless. They are serving a purpose. What I want to do as their mental health provider is identify that purpose and find other healthy or adaptive strategies, skills, tools to use. So I'm going to introduce two. You may have already heard of them. You may be familiar with them. Wonderful. The first one that I'm going to talk about is deep breathing. So there's probably some people out there that are like, oh my God, really? Yes, most basic one, because we all breathe, right? Automatically, we come into this world with a breath. What I'm talking about is breathing correctly. So what this may look like, and you won't be able to see both of my hands, you'll only be able to see one. But one way to ensure that you are using deep breathing effectively is to put one hand on your chest. Okay? With the other hand, you're going to put it on your belly. So place it over your belly button. And what you're going to want to do is take really deep belly breaths. You're going to want to hold in, inhale and hold that breath for maybe 3 to 5 seconds. And slowly exhale. For example, so I know that you all are not here with me and you can't see everything, but this top hand did not move. When you are doing deep breathing, if you notice this top hand coming up, you're not breathing correctly. Oftentimes when we get overwhelmed, we hyperventilate. Okay, so at that point, there's not enough oxygen getting to the brain, which in itself is going to lead to panic. When you can take a few moments and do some effective belly breaths, what you're showing yourself is that, excuse me, let me take a step back. What's happening is you're allowing oxygen to get into your brain, which is already just going to slow down that process and allow you to remember those more effective skills. Okay? Another thing that I'm going to introduce is grounding. So what grounding is, it's bringing yourself back into the present. It's not uncommon that people live outside of the present. Well, I'm worried about what's going to happen because I'm worried about this happening, and then if that happens, then this is going to happen, and then if that happens, then this might happen, and I know that's going to happen because it happened before, and I'm really worried about it happening again. We get caught in that cycle, so what we stop doing is focusing on what is actually happening right now. When we can do that and kind of regroup and refocus, well, then we can go to that next step and that next step. So grounding, if I were to look around my room right now and identify 5 things that you cannot see, but I know are there, I would say I see a painting. I would say I see my lamp. I see a telephone with some drawing materials in my window. Okay. So grounding is going to use, grounding will use tasks and just bringing yourself to focus. One of the skills that I was just using is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What are 5 things that you can see? What are 4 things that you can hear? What are 4 things that you can feel around you? What are 3 things that you can hear? Right? What are maybe 2 things that you can smell? And can you find 1 thing that's on your lips? Did you just have coffee? Did you have some orange juice? Right? Really centering yourself and allowing yourself the time to make your next move and really plan it out from strategy and not from panic. So I hope this intro into maladaptive coping tools was helpful. If you have any questions or need me to clarify anything, please go ahead and send me a comment or a message. If this video was helpful, go ahead and go ahead and subscribe, or go ahead and again, reach out to me if you have other questions or concerns. Please continue to stay safe, take care of yourself, be a little kinder to yourself so that you can find yourself being a little kinder to others. And as always, peace and love.